Trent Mongero here with Winning Baseball. Tim Hyers, good friend of mine. Every time you get into town, we like to talk hitting.
Yep.
And wanted to bring you in today and really kind of include the audience in our discussion, where we talk hitting at all different levels, really give the parents a plan, and just discuss some of the finer points where we really feel like can help a parent or help a coach succeed with his child or their team. Obviously, you're now a current hitting coach with the Boston Red Sox, and you've been a scout, and you've been a coach, and many consider you the top baseball guy in the country. I know humbly you're not going to say that, but you are. So, give me a little bit more about your background and a little bit about who influenced you as your philosophy.
One thing, I've been in professional baseball since 1990. I was drafted, played 10 years. And like you said, there's a lot of guys, a lot of coaches, a lot of good players that, influence you. And one of the things is, you have those experiences with guys, you pick up things, and you kind of develop your own philosophy. Playing for 10 years, and then also I started scouting. Did that for about 4 or 5 years, and then now, I'm coaching with the Red Sox in the minor leagues. I'm their minor league hitting coordinator, and something that I really enjoy. I really enjoy talking hitting, and hitting is my passion. That's what I've always done, and just like yourself, you're a guy that loves to teach, loves to see players play this game and improve and grow their confidence, and that's something I really enjoy.
Well, who was the core influences for you then into your philosophy?
When I first started, I had a roving hitting instructor. His name Bill Buckner, and he was a guy that instilled a lot of principles into me, into what I think as a hitter. He was very patient, very simple. He understood my swing. He understood what I was thinking. He understood my strengths and weaknesses. So that influenced me a lot. And then, I was fortunate to go play for the San Diego Padres in the big leagues. And, Merv Retman was the hitting coach then. He was a longtime player. He won a World Series. He was a coach, hitting coach for many years. And he, in my opinion, is one of the best that I was ever around, just because of his simple principles. He just understood who you were, just like Bill Buckner. He understood that there was going to be failure in hitting. There was going to be some ups and downs. But I always knew that I could trust him, and I always knew that he was somebody I could go to and have a conversation with, and he understood where I was coming from. And, and then some of the players, as you play, there's so many guys that you talk baseball with, you talk hitting, you grow those relationships. One of the popular names is, Tony Gwynn. He's a guy that studied the game. He was, obviously an incredible hitter, and a guy that, we taught a lot of people about how to succeed at the plate. And he was a guy that I remember the most from, and probably, gave me the most insight.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, as a coach and as a player, that's what you're looking for, a relationship, a trusting relationship, and that you believe in what the coach is sharing with you. And, obviously he's not just trying to give you mechanics, but so much more. And I had some great coaches as well, but I really wish that I would have been exposed to the things that I've learned from you and others, especially over the last 15 years since I've been out of the game. So I really look forward to diving in today and, sharing with the audience the knowledge that you have. Tim, I wanted to discuss philosophy. That's a big word, but, as a hitter, we have ideas as to what works and what doesn't work. I know, being a high school coach now for 24 years, I teach differently, I believe differently in things than maybe I did when I first started. And, what I always try to tell people when I speak around the country is, put a logic test, to what's being taught and what's being exposed, the ideas. Does it make sense? Is it going to help you be shorter, quicker, more consistent? And as I've been exposed to different ideas, a lot of them from you, I've developed a hitting philosophy that I try to impart on my players. Not trying to create the same hitter, but just a general overall philosophy of hitting. So share a little bit about your philosophy.
I take a little bit different approach. I think so many hitting coaches, they only focus on mechanics. It's like you were talking about. And they tend to take hitters into only one way of thinking. And to me, mechanics are important. They play a vital role, but there's more to it than just being mechanically sound. I think we overlook pitch selection, we overlook approach, and we overlook plan. Those are three very important areas to work on so a hitter can be solid and consistent. Dave Maganin used to be the hitting coach for the Boston Red Sox. I think he's now with the Texas Rangers. And I remember reading an article, and he said, you're only as good as the pitches you swing at. You're only as good as the pitches you swing at. I know that seems simple, but it's right on the money. I mean, if you expand the zone as a hitter and you swing at balls outside the strike zone, it's going to make it very difficult to be consistent. I think our swings are made to swing at pitches over the plate. So that one thing, pitch selection, is so important for a hitter to be consistent. You know, for example, I mean, hitters hit off a tee. You know, they do pregame work. Ball sitting on the tee, a couple hours before the game, they swing 7 or 8, 9 times, and they become consistent. They'll hit line drive after line drive after line drive. But then 2 hours later, they jump into the game, and sometimes we have a different result. You know, we might strike out their first at bat, second at bat, pop up, and then a rollover. And I think we jump right back to mechanics and like there's a problem when maybe it was what type of pitch did you swing at? The types of pitches you swing at probably going to affect your mechanics. So I think that's where what things I believe in. We're quick to draw judgment. We're looking for quick fixes when we're talking about hitting. We're looking for that magic formula. We're looking for that secret, you know, sauce, so to speak, that somebody's going to come in here and be able to correct all my problems, and I'm going to be this perfect hitter. I just don't think that way. I think there's a journey. I think it's you're learning about your swing every single day. And when you can start to focus on more than just mechanics, I think that's when you step in the batter's box and you're confident, you're aggressive, and you're ready to go compete. And that's what I like to build is hitters that have that mindset and not cluttered in their thinking and trying to be perfect mechanically and want to get into the batter's box and be confident.
Absolutely. And I think as a parent, I hope they're really listening to this, because so often, you know, the parent's instinct is to want to help. The coach's instinct is to want to help. So the first thing they do is, you know, in between every pitch, they're shouting or encouraging, you know, do this, do that, make this adjustment, make that adjustment. And, you know, really, we got to give some freedom to the guys in the box. I mean, this is supposed to be fun.
Yes.
And it's a challenge for those parents now, because they want to see their kids be successful as much as we want to see our kids be successful. So, you know, the philosophy, I love it. I love what you believe in. I believe in it as a coach. So let's get into the meats and potatoes of this thing a little bit here. Tim, one thing I get a lot, questions, you know, concerns from coaches and parents, is confidence. How to build confidence. You know, my son, my daughter, they're not confident, or they're losing confidence, or something is causing confidence issues. So we know we had a lot more success when we believed we were going to have success. But there's obviously a way to go about creating confidence, and it's not just, you know, some magical little wand you wave over somebody. So, you know, what do you think it takes to build confidence as a hitter? You know,
I think confidence, that's what we're all trying to build in our hitters. And I think their practice plan, being consistent with how they prepare to go play the game. You know, it's just, it can be as simple as hitting balls off a tee, but they're getting those swings in, and then hopefully it shows up into the game. And I think it's just repeating, you know, the reps they get before the game, and something that's consistent, but it's also simple and not too complicated, so that they get lost into their work. Right. And something they can succeed in. And I think that is a reflection. The more times they do that, the more times it has a chance of showing up into the game action.
Yeah, you know, I believe that. I mean, at the high school level, that's what we're doing with our guys. In the off season, we're giving them tools to succeed. So they believe in what we're teaching them, they buy in, and then we go to work. So, you know, they have a T plan, which, you know, you have helped create. And then, of course, front toss, BP, game BP, and barrels, barrels, barrels. You know what I mean? We reward our players for barrels, even in practice. We'll
Sure.
compete, and guys that barrel balls up, because we want them believing that hitting the ball hard wins.
Sure.
And that helps the team. So, you know, confidence doesn't come overnight. You know, I know as a player, it was a journey. Certain times mine was high, certain times it was low. But, you know, you persevere through it all. And you got to be tough.
Sure.
Because you're going to have those days, weeks, months when things aren't working quite
Sure.
right as a hitter. But I love the plan element. And we're going to get more into that. You know, a simple T plan for a young player, maybe a little bit more advanced one for an advanced player, and just how that process works. So stay with us and make sure you check that out, because that's great stuff. Tim, one thing that I see a lot are parents and players who are really result oriented. They, you know, it's all about that one at bat. It means everything, life or death. They got to succeed, and you know, they put so much pressure on themselves. And you know, what kind of advice can you offer to a parent, a player, or even a coach in some instances to deal with, you know, the failures that are inherent with being a hitter, which can free these people up, these batters up, these players up to succeed?
You know, I think first of all, I mean, you want to have a confident, aggressive hitter that steps into the batter's box. And I think when we get result-oriented all the time, then that's when we can slow down hitters, because in their mind, if they get a hit, they're happy. If they make an out, it's bad. And I think we need to avoid that. You know, it's a process to be a good hitter. And even if you make an out, in my opinion, and hitters are going to make outs. That's just the way it is.
No doubt.
It's a failure sport. And so when they make outs, to me, it's more of like you collected information for that at bat. You're going to get a couple more in that game. So then you're going to be more prepared your next at bat and your next at bat. You know, I see some coaches or even some parents that get upset their son takes a strike. And in my opinion, that's not the end of the world. What happens is, in my opinion, you look at the strike. I just collected some information. I saw how the ball came through the zone. I saw how fast it was. It helped my timing. So I'm better prepared because I did take a ball that went in the strike zone. Am I, wanting players to do that? No, but I am going to look on the positive side and not that it's the end of the world because they took a strike or they're behind in the count.
Yeah, I think, you hit the nail on the head. It really comes down to me, to have an encouraging environment, the freedom to fail, to make a mistake. I mean, all of us that have played the game have looked at a fastball right down the middle, and beat ourselves up internally, like, how in the world did I just let that go? And then we end up swinging at a curveball in the dirt the next pitch over our head, or we let the umpire get in our head, or the parents get in our head. It's a difficult game enough. But if you can really be encouraging, I think there's no doubt that the rate of success is going to go up. So, process, I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about process. I mean, results are obviously batting average. Did you get a hit? Did you not get a hit? I think there's some things that we got to kind of push aside there. And if you take care of process, the results take care of themselves. So what are you talking about when you say process? Because I know that's what people are thinking.
Sure. I mean, hitters, all hitters are prepared when they go up there. They did their work. They hit off a tee and took some batting practice and loosened up and was ready to go compete. But then I think there's more to it. The process then is, they're creating their plan. What kind of approach am I going to have? I mean, where am I trying to hit the ball? What am I trying to do when I step in that batter's box? And I think when we get result-oriented, like I said before, things start to get complicated because we're trying to go search for hits instead of see the ball, put a good swing on it, and that's all we can do. I mean, you can't direct the baseball. You're just trying to hit it hard. Right. And I think kids get into searching for hits. And when you go 0 for 1, and that next AB, the energy and the anxiety builds up, and the next AB you get another out, and you're like, I got to get a hit. I got to get a hit. That's not the plan to have. That's not the process I want my hitters to go through. I want them to get up there, have a simple plan, be able to see the ball, concentrate on the baseball, put a good swing on it, be on time, some simple principles about hitting, concentrate on those and not concentrating so much about the results. Because if you get hitters that are searching for hits and anticipating I got to get a hit, boy, that's a road for failure in my opinion.
You know, and when you say that, I can't help but think of my own professional career, because I kind of lived and died with my results.
I did too.
And had I had this simple, it's just so simple but yet so true. You know, you got a guy like yourself who's working with professional hitters every day, even big league guys. You know, if they just can understand and believe that it's okay to fail, we're looking to hit the ball hard to help the team.
That's all you can do. That's all you can do.
That's all you can do, and the good stuff starts to happen as a result. There's so much success to me that comes with freedom. Freedom to go up there and compete and not feel like you got to come away with a doggone hit every time.
Sure.
I mean, you know.
I've seen some good hitting coaches
Right.
and good dads. I mean, there's dads out there that promote this, and they're so on their kid's side, their son or daughter, and it's like they're in that boat with them. They're in that journey with them. And so when their players step into the batter's box,
Right.
they're confident, they're aggressive, and they're putting them in a state of mind to succeed.
Right.
We all want our kids or we want our hitters to get hits. Everybody wants that.
Right.
But we also know there's going to be outs and there's going to be some tough times in the middle. And when during those tough times, I don't want to be sending all kind of different messages. I want something simple. I want them to know, as I'm their hitting coach or the dads, I want them to be able to understand that it's a simple message. It's something that they can run back to and be consistent with to step in that batter's box and go compete.
That's awesome. Great stuff. Wish I had it when I was a young player. So Tim, I want to talk a little bit about attainable goals. What should a player really feel like he has control over in the batter's box? You know, so share with us, you know, what you think somebody should realistically go into a box, have an at-bat, and come away with.
You know, when a player steps in the batter's box, the goal, simple goal can be, I want to see the baseball, I want to get a strike in my area and put a good swing on it. I can do that. You know, I focus on the baseball. The other thing is I can control my effort level or try to control my anxiety, slow down my heartbeat so that I think a little more clear and I keep my athleticism up. So those little things I think, you know, that you can attain or they're realistic, and not so much, you know, once you hit the ball and you hit it hard and you make an out, you know, you can't control that. Hit it hard, that's it. We can run to first base, hustle. Those are things that we can control.
Right. So a quality at bat. You know, step up there. You know, what I heard from you, good pitch.
Yep.
Well, before that, calm down, relax. Relax muscles are fast muscles.
Sure.
See the ball, get a good pitch, be on time.
Sure.
Let's barrel it up. So, you know, see ball, hit ball, you
Right.
know, hustle.
Like that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, keeping it simple, consistent, then the results will follow if we have that process. Chase the process. No, don't chase the results.
Right.
That's the big thing is don't chase, you know, every time you get a hit, you feel good. Every time you, you know, make an out, you think you did something wrong.
Right.
You know, I think that's a hard way to go about it.
No doubt. So what about the player, you know, from a selfish standpoint? You know, it's all about me because I didn't get a hit. Your thoughts on that?
You know, I try to teach guys, you know, to get away from that selfish approach. You know, if you get a hit, you see them in the dugout and they're cheering and they're all happy or whatever,
Right.
and maybe the scoreboard reflects something different. Or if they get a hit, you know, and you know, it's the greatest thing. I think that we need to stay away from that. You know, more of it's about the team. Be a team player. You know, cheer your teammates on. You know, some of your guys, they get hits. You know, cheer them on. Get away from everything, all of the results about yourself. Help your team go win. And then at the end of the game, then you can reflect on some of the successes you had.
Yeah, I think, you know, some advice I would give to a parent or a player is, you know, there was nothing worse. And maybe I was this guy once in a while as a player. I sure hope not. But, you know, when he makes an out, the whole dugout clears away from this guy.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Or he's going to sit there and tell you 15 reasons why he made an out. No
Sure.
one wants to hear any of that.
Sure.
You know, we all make outs. We go out there, we do our best. We try to help each other more than anything. Hey, this is what I saw, you know, be ready, you know, or look for a pattern together on the bench of how this guy's trying to get you out. But nothing worse than the selfish guy slamming helmets, throwing bats, pitching a fit, cussing right and left. I mean, that gets old.
Sure does.
You know, it gets old. So, you know, it's a lot more fun. The game's supposed to be fun. When we get up here, shoot for our attainable goals. If we make an out, hopefully it was a quality out. And then if not, how can we make it a quality out next time? You know, and those start to add up. Coaches notice that stuff. I mean,
Sure.
I know as a head coach, I'm looking for the guys that are going to help us win and getting the ball in play hard with 2 strikes, just getting it in play, period, at the high school level, make them field and throw it, hustle, put pressure on people. You know, it doesn't take talent to give effort. How many
Sure.
times have we heard that? You know, and everybody agrees with that till they roll over that weak ground ball, and then they're, you know, showing negative body language going to first base. But you get a team of guys giving full effort, you know, playing for the team, that adds up to wins.
Yeah.
And that's what we're supposed to be playing this game for, especially at the higher levels.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes when those players, you know, get upset, I think their expectations are unrealistic. You know, they think, oh, I'm going to get a hit all the time, or I should have hit this guy. And when those expectations get out of whack or get out of control, then the emotions can follow. So but they have simple and understand what success is, not all about their batting average, but about what they can control in the batter's box, that's when they can start to change their attitude.
Right, great stuff. Tim, one thing I hear you talk about a lot, it's a message that throughout this whole conversation is not to get too hung up on the mechanics. You know, the mental side plays a huge role as well. So explain how the mental can help the physical or the mechanics.
You know, I take an example. You know, a hitter's in the game, takes his first 2 at-bats, he pops up, weak pop-up in the infield. We probably see that maybe there is a mechanical breakdown, but I really strongly feel you don't jump to the mechanics so fast. I think if you change his mindset, get him thinking about something else that will help his mechanics. And so, for example, if he pops up 2 of them in a row, I would tell him, say, hey, get a pitch down, just a little bit further down. Hey, try to hit me a low line drive. So I changed his approach to help the physical. And I think that's where we can go. Instead of jumping, okay, you got to do this, you got to do that, we clutter their minds. So now they're thinking, is my hand's in the right position? I don't want to uppercut again. But you made something simple, something where they messed up on, change the mental aspect that can help the physical.
Right. So it's kind of like a reverse psychology a little bit. I mean,
Sure.
Instead of going into this big mechanical explanation of why they're hitting pop-ups,
Sure.
let's give them a simple approach to get on top of the ball a little bit.
Sure.
You know, that's really good stuff. And one thing I try to tell my players is, you know, we really focus on the mechanics in the off season, in practice, in the cages. I mean, the sign behind us, I don't know if you can see it on film, says build it here, trust it there.
Sure.
So, I mean, we're not going to get all mechanical on the field. I very rarely am giving mechanical tips to my players. It's usually psychological, an approach, something positive that they can quickly digest and turn it into a quality at bat.
Because remember, you want to build confident, aggressive hitters that when they step in there, they're ready to compete. But if they're worried about the results, they're worried about doing something wrong, I think it slows them down, kills their athleticism. We want to make sure that those messages are consistent also. Simple, consistent, and the mental can really adjust the physical. You know, another example, you get a key moment in the game, anxiety's high, their heartbeat, they want to succeed. Men on second and third, late in the ball game. You know, they jump out after the ball and hit a weak ground ball. You know, it probably wasn't all the mechanics. It was probably their approach. Hey, slow it down, get a good pitch to hit. You're going to be okay. Right. And move the mental side. And I think there's where you have, you know, hitters that jump in there and they're aggressive. They're ready to go to compete the next at bat. And maybe after the game, we'll talk a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, I think I want to nail that one again. I think somebody who doesn't have the results that they're hoping for in a big situation, the last thing that they need to do is be pounded by you. If they can hear an encouraging word, the next time they get in that situation, they're much more likely to have success, you know, and that's how you build a confident player.
That mindset the mental aspect is so important. And I think us hitting coaches, I'm one of the world's worst. I want to jump sometimes to the mechanical because you see things in the batter's box and you want to help your son or daughter. You want to help your hitters. But I think being patient, and they're learning. And another thing that was taught to me is those times of failure, I'm learning a lot. I'm gaining information. I'm learning through that. So I don't need the hitting coach to tell me every single thing to do. When I learn things on my own, because you gave me, hey, quick advice, change your perspective, I learned, I made the adjustment on my own, I think that's way more powerful than somebody telling me exactly, step by step of what I have to do. Then I become dependent. And I think that's the wrong message. We want these hitters to be able to make some adjustments and give them encouraging words. And we have to be patient. Don't ever forget that. It's, their next at bat can change. I mean, things can go different.
Right.
So be patient. It's not the end of the world when they make it out. Give them some encouraging words. Be simple. Be productive.
Yeah, I love that message of, letting them kind of figure things out on their own.
Sure.
You're not going to have your hitting coach, your dad, with you your whole life. Eventually, you got to, understand the situation, what happened, why it happened. I mean, be able to self-analyze a little bit without tearing yourself apart, but and then you make the adjustments. That affects your plan the next time. We live in this fast food society, want it now, get it now, everything's got to be fixed now, when really that's not what this game is about at all, is it?
We don't want to build that atmosphere of a quick fix. There's no quick fix because there's too many variables. There's pitch selection. The pitchers are going to throw different pitches. I look at every pitcher as like a different book. I mean, they have different angles. The ball comes out of their hand different. So there's going to be different things. We have to make some adjustments. But if I'm the player and I'm so dependent on my coach, then you lose that athleticism. You lose the growth to get better. And that's not something I want to work for. I don't want to create that environment.
And something that comes to mind to kind of demonstrate that is in the minor leagues, how many at-bats are you hoping a player gets in a season? Because through that process of 300, 400 at-bats, they're gathering information and they're learning. So it's not, I know in pro ball, they weren't just running to us, you need to fix that, you need to fix this. They kind of let you try to figure it out on your own. And if things aren't working, maybe you seek some help. But again, the quantity, the volume of at-bats to try to figure something out. And that's why probably, you tell me if I'm right or wrong, so many guys, it takes years to get to the major leagues because it's a process.
Failure, you're going to learn something from it.
Right.
Then we try to teach through some failure. And it's okay to fail. You learn from it. We don't go back down the same road, and we start to improve. So when you identify, hey, I don't feel very good at the plate. What do I do to help myself get, back into a groove? And so because that's where hitting is going to be partly negative. You're going to make outs. Right. So you have that strong mindset and exactly what you talked about, having the consistency and not, the end of the world when we make an out.
Right. Great stuff.
Like I said, all hitters are different.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own unique skills. I have some hitters who are really good low ball hitters.
Right.
Don't swing at the ball above your hands. Try to get the ball down. They're really good at getting in the zone low and then driving through it. There's some other guys who hammer baseballs up in the zone. They understand their strengths. They understand what they're capable of doing, and that's some of the things they work on. So it's not, I don't think every hitter can cover every single part at all times. I'm not sure that works that way. We're just trying to get a hitter in a good position to make solid contact, to have some success, to hit the ball square.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, as a high school coach, I'm often dealing with not superior athletes. I have some,
sure,
occasionally, and then most of them are average guys who have a little bit of athleticism and they buy in. But I got guys that are going to pepper the ball around the field. That's what they do well at. That's how they're going to help us win. If they're going to try to, do some things that they see some of the, big league power hitters do, they're going to hit lazy fly balls that are caught. I got other guys that can drop the hammer and, hit the ball out of the park. That's their approach, their plan, and they do it well. But, I don't expect my 9 guy and my 1 guy to hit like, my 4 guy or 5 guy, being general, but you know what I'm saying. So, I mean, they all do things a little bit differently, and but they all are staying within their strengths.
Within the strengths, they understand their strengths.
That's what I try to coach them to, their strengths.
And I see that also. A lot of guys, they see hitters on TV, but those guys on TV, they really know their swings. They have a lot of experience. They're grown men. They've been doing this for a long time. So a high school hitter sees, a major league hitter do something that's special, and they want to do it also. I'm not sure it works that way just because of the experience level and the strength and the maturity of the amount of reps that they get. It's not it doesn't say they eventually one day wouldn't be able to do that. But right now, if they force it, that's when failure starts, because they're trying to do something outside their realm they're not used to. It takes a lot of reps and a lot of training. Probably that big league hitter, when he was in high school, he didn't look the same way that he looks now. He's grown with his swing. He's learned about his swing. Things have started to mature in that level, right. And it took a while to do that. And I don't want to discourage kids of not dreaming and not being able to do those things, but you got to be realistic. It takes time to do that.
There's no doubt. I just think, you have to be real. And, I've been coaching in high school for 24 years. I played in college, played professionally. I graduated high school at 143 pounds, at the most. I'm pretty sure I was less. Played professionally at 163. So, even a couple of years when I was done with pro ball at 187, 189, I could do things at 187, 189 I couldn't dream about doing when I was 143 pounds in high school. So my maturity level, my physical maturity level, my experience allowed me to start hitting balls out of the park, where that would have never have been my approach. And to try to create an approach like that at 143 pounds, soaking wet, would have not served well for me. So, I mean, to take every hitter and try to make them the same is a crime as a high school coach.
Sure. But that's a great lesson for a dad, is like, we've talked about having a plan, having a process, having, build some reps and have a, build some simple principles for our hitters. And what you just said makes a lot of sense, because it's where they're at. You're teaching the young man or the daughter where they're at, and it's going to take time for them to grow. But if we teach those sound principles, the sound fundamentals, they can eventually grow into that.
Right. But
it takes patience. You can't go from day one practice and expect to be as good as some of these high school players. It takes time, and patience is something that, I think us dads, and I'm probably guilty of this also, is we want to fast forward. We want results now, and I think sometimes we can grow into failure by trying to jump it, trying to speed things up instead of let the process work. Let the young man grow and let him, let his maturity, let his strength levels tell you what he can do.
Tim, one thing I wanted to touch on and make sure our audience, can take something away from is common mistakes that we make as coaches or dads. You're a dad, I'm a dad. We both have sons who play the game at different levels right now from age groups. We have the tendency to be very hard on our players. If we're not careful, we don't choose our words carefully. We want to break down every at-bat, every move the kid makes on offense and defense. What's some advice that you have, as somebody who is recognized across the country as a leader in your field, that these parents can take away from, and you sincerely want to tell them and share with them some things that can help them allow their kid to have some freedom to succeed?
I think what you just said is some freedom to succeed, and not so critical in every single movement. Like we said before, your son or daughter, they're going to make outs. It's a tough game. and that's just part of it. And how to deal with that is so important. You know, right after the game, there's no hitter trying to make outs. They're all trying to succeed. So I know, it's tough on me sometimes. I see some of the flaws, and my son, and you want to get in there and you want to help him out. But I think the words you choose are so important. I want to build him up first, and I think later there's a time to maybe get a little bit deeper into maybe what happened. But, keeping it simple. I don't think it's anything wrong with talking about the general. Hey, you had a tough day today. You hit some balls pretty hard, but, they just didn't find a hole. Or, pitcher was pretty tough. Threw you some tough pitches. You kind of expanded the zone a little bit. That's okay. But you did some good things. Pick out something they did really well.
Right.
Yeah, you put your nose on the ball. You look at the ball really well. Hey, you were aggressive. You might have expanded the zone a little bit, but hey, you were aggressive to it. Hey, I'm proud of that. I think that builds confidence, and they know that you're on their side, because that's the worst thing to do. I know when I was a player, is I felt the hitting coach or felt my dad was, not in my corner.
Right.
Hey, we got to have somebody that be in our corner, because this is a tough sport, and there's going to be a lot of negativity.
Absolutely. So how about the other end of the spectrum? Is there any danger from building your kid up too much, where maybe they don't deserve that as well? Because I have seen that.
Sure.
What's the danger?
I think that is if a kid stops working or becomes, not doing what he's supposed to do. And what I mean is, it's those, go back to those sound principles and things that we talked about earlier. Is your pitch selection. Does he have some balance? Does he have some, body control? And when he starts to get away from those things and say, hey, I can do it my way, I think that's when you back them off and say, no, let's get back to, what we know really works.
We're working, we're developing, we're growing, we're encouraging. The batter's got to have a plan. I think as a parent, we got to have a plan.
Yes.
As a coach, we got to have a plan. And that is to see the big picture, realize it's a marathon, not a sprint. Good days, bad days. And we got to bite our tongue sometimes, and we got to encourage. And I know with my son, I kind of like to see if he'll come to me. I think ultimately he's expecting me to say something to break it down, and when I don't, he's like, hey, Dad, what'd you think about this, or what'd you think about that? Then I choose my words very, very carefully and try not to go on this big lifelong lesson for 2 hours about this little game that just took place.
Sure.
So,
teach process and not results.
Right.
We have a saying where we want to chase the process, don't chase the results.
Right.
And I know that's so difficult to instill and to do as a player, because everybody wants to get hits. But you know what? If I can get my son to prepare and compete, that's all I can do. That's the hitters that I'm looking for.
And that's all the coach should want from
Sure.
his players also. So, all right, outstanding. This is a difficult game. It takes time, it takes practice, it takes ups and downs. It'll test you mentally like no other game. It's a slow-paced game at times, but man, is it fun.
Yeah.
There's no feeling like squaring up a baseball,
And shouldn't we promote that? And isn't it the fun part of playing this game? When even if your son hits a line drive and it's an out, he was successful in my book.
No doubt.
And it's almost like you should praise it. That's part of the game. That's I remember I love that challenge between, the pitcher and myself. He got me sometimes. I got him sometimes. But it was the fun part of stepping in the batter's box and accepting that challenge and going and playing. Yes, there's some days that were bad, some days that were good. But, as a dad and as a coach, praise those, accomplishments. It's not just about all the results, how many hits you got for the day. You know what? Did you help the team out? Were you working on pitch selection, and guess what? You swing at better pitches today. Guess what? That's something that we focus on and we build off of instead of trying to be the perfect hitter from day one.
Tim, as we talk hitting, we keep coming back to approach and plan, attainable goals, all awesome stuff that I wish I knew as a player. But there's no doubt that swing mechanics play a role also.
Yep.
So, to me, to be a great hitter, I've always kind of summarized it in 3 categories. I said you got to have some fundamental swing mechanics in order to be on time and consistently barrel the ball up. You got to be able to, secondly, see the pitch
Sure.
recognition. We got to spin, speed, location. We got to be able to figure that out in order to have a chance to use our mechanics efficiently. And then 3, the plan and approach, helping us out. So, really those 3 things. And I'd like now to dive a little bit into the mechanical side of things, some things that you think are critical to help a hitter be successful mechanically.
First of all, I think that, every hitter has their own unique style, their own unique strengths and weaknesses. As you look in the major leagues, there's hitters that do things different. We see different styles and how they get the barrel there. A lot of successful hitters. So I think as us hitting coaches, we can't forget that. We can't make every hitter the exact same way. There's players who are going to be built different. We have tall, lanky players, and then some guys that are just, really strong, quick bats. There's all kind of different ways to do it. So I really think you have to understand your player. Understand where he's very strong, some weaknesses that he has. So first of all, understand your players, communicate with them, get to know them. I think that it becomes a better two-way communication line that we can, help our hitters at.
So no cookie cutter.
No cookie cutter. You can have principles.
Right.
And I think throughout every single hitter, there's sound principles that we need to promote and we need to teach. A couple of things is we need to have a repeatable swing.
Right.
In the batter's box, we got to be able to repeat. Amen. We got to have some body control. We got to be able to control the eyes or control the head to see the baseball, to have good timing. And in my opinion, those are some things that we can dig in deeper a little bit later, but that's some of the sound fundamentals. If you preach those things, body control, be on time, having a repeatable swing, good with your eyes, control your effort level. Right. Those are things that all good hitters do.
Right. Even young hitters?
Even young hitters. I think young hitters, depends on their strength level and body control. As they're growing, they'll get better at it. But if we send that same message, we send those messages that we're trying to, increase, or we're trying to get better at that, right. I think they know what to work on.
Right.
If you're simple and you have those principles and you keep preaching them, so everything you do, you might do some drills, you might do some, some work, but you're always going back to promote body control, repeatable swing, being able to be on time. Can you control your eyes? Because you got to be able to see the ball in the zone. Right. A lot of good hitters, they control their head so well. So when I talk in that, I think that's simple. And when our hitters understand the message we're trying to send, right. They're so much more confident.
Right, I agree. And, back years and years ago when you and I first filmed the Winning Baseball series, there was really 6 phases or 6 main things within the swing, from a mechanical standpoint.
Sure.
That we touched on. And, the things you just said make perfect sense to me. Controlling your head, repeating your swing, but to the average dad out there or coach, young coach, some of that terminology might not make sense. Can you explain in a little more depth now, maybe get into maybe phase by phase, and explain a little bit more about what you mean by each of those elements?
Sure. I mean, when players stand in, get in the batter's box, that's their setup, their stance. The focus there should be athletic position, have some rhythm, some looseness about their body, and feel relaxed in the batter's box. Number 2 is there's going to be a positive movement to the pitcher. We call that our stride, or when the front foot hits the ground. And the focus there should be putting myself in a stronger position. My stride, my separation, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
But can I repeat it, and can I get in a stronger position? And then the next thing I talk about is direction with the lower half. I really concentrate on the back hip, is we have direction through the baseball. I think a lot of hitters want to spin out of it, and there's where we lose our body control. Right. We want to have direction so we can have some kind of consistency that will be able to help our bat stay through the zone. Right. Another thing is control the head. I have a saying, when the head's down, the swing follows. If you're good with the head, good with your eyes, a lot of things can correct itself if you're good with seeing the baseball. The next thing we're talking about is like a swing plane. There's going to be a natural arc to it, but I think the most thing to focus on and the most important area is, can we keep our hands inside the ball, And can we stay through the baseball? A lot of guys just want to hit the baseball and then they're off it. Don't hit the baseball. How about you hit through the baseball? And then the last thing, what we touched on earlier, was body control, being able to repeat and be consistent with our effort level and our tempo.
Right. So great stuff. So what I'd love now is maybe to get a bat in your hands. Let's get a player in here and let's let you show what you're talking about.
Sure.
Because it's excellent stuff. And I just can't emphasize enough as to as a player coming through high school in the 80s, way back, how much all of this would have helped me. And I know it's going to help our audience out there. So let's get the hitter.
Yep.
All right, Tim, with swing mechanics, show me some things that really stand out to you that you really want to emphasize.
Some of the things, we talked about getting in the batter's box. You want to be athletic and have some rhythm and have a good starting place because, the swing starts from the ground up. And so, if we feel comfortable in the batter's box, it really helps out. You hear hitters talk, I don't feel comfortable in the box. I kind of feel off balance. But then when guys are going really well, they say they step in the batter's box, they feel comfortable, their feet are in the right spot. So I think we're always trying to work on that. We're trying to find that comfort level and that positioning so that we can have plate coverage. And number two is, it's that rhythm. I think what's overlooked is, there's so many different ways to stride or get into that power position. And that's something we're always working on. It's got to be able to repeat it. It's got to be under control. You have to have some rhythm to it to be able to get the barrel to the baseball. And so when you're in your stance, a lot of guys just stride to stride. And it's not a positive move. It doesn't get them in a stronger position to swing the bat. They just kind of stride because the coach told them to.
Right.
And it's not paying attention to that detail. I want a guy to have some separation, whatever it may be, but whenever they stride, if I was to stop them and the foot's down, they're in a strong position because that's the last position before they fire the barrel into the zone. So if you put yourself in a weak position, you're going to make it difficult to get the barrel there. Right. So I think that's a part that's overlooked. Do I have the magic formula for that? No. I think every hitter's different. There's some hitters who start with an open stance that get into a real powerful position. But some common flaws I see is when they stride, a lot of hitters will stride into the plate. And when you stride into the plate, as you can see, it's hard to utilize my lower half. And so now they're going to swing around their front side instead of getting in that strong position so that you create a lane. You create a path for your hands to work and for that backside to drive into the front side.
Right. Great stuff. Anything else from a mechanical standpoint?
From there, from that position, and once we get into a good power position, we're square, we have a good base. And the reason we have that good base is now I can make some adjustments from the inside outside. If I stride away and my first movement is away from the baseball, you can see my plate coverage is poor on the outer half. Or, if I stride in, I probably can cover the outer half, but I've done a lot of damage to this ball in the inner half. And so I want to make sure that, get in that good position so I can create a hand path. And I want to make sure my hands stay to the inside strong so that I can create an arc. I can get the barrel there and then finish through. As you can see, I'm driving through the baseball, not wanting just to spin and create a circle. And a lot of times this back foot is a big indicator. Because if a hitter, his first move is to spin and get on the outside, the weight on the outside of the back foot, that tells me he's really spinning and not really driving through and clearing the hips so the hands can work through the zone.
These young hitters hear so much from so many people. Got to rotate the hips, got to rotate the hips. I mean, to me, the hips are going to rotate naturally. You throw a baseball and no one has to say rotate your hips. You know what I mean? So I think somebody that overemphasizes hip rotation is going to have a lot more chance of their player running away from their swing.
Running away is a really good point. You see that, especially when the effort level goes up. And what they do is they take the front side, and the front side's doing all the work, and the backside drags. And when it drags, then you have length, and it looks like they're swinging underwater. Let's talk about, weight transfer. And, the hips are going to work, but it's that weight transfer into the front side. You see a lot of hitters when they stride and they start to rotate, you see the heel and the front side start to leak, and everything's running in this direction. And now they got to swing around their body. And that creates a long swing. We want to drive into it so this top hand, so that top hand can get there behind the ball. If I'm to sit the bat down, as you can see, when I'm driving, I want to get the hand to the front side. I don't want the hand to drag back here. If it drags, I create length and the swing drags. But if I can get the hand here, I've utilized the hips, I'm behind it, now I can work through it, and there's where I can create my arc. And it's that natural arc, not something that gets here and then cuts. You see that often.
Yeah, and I think somebody might be saying, well, why is all this so important? Who cares if there's length? Well, we don't have time.
No.
There's no time. 0.4 of a second, approximately 90-mile-an-hour fastball, 0.4, that's a slow blink of the human eye. You got pitch recognition, you got a fraction of a second to get off your swing and be on time.
Sure.
If you want to play this game, and barrel balls up.
Yeah.
So this is why length, you can't create length.
No, and hitters that, have some struggles with getting the barrel there. I think a lot of hitters get started late. When a guy is late to contact a lot of time, I talk about getting ready early. You want to swing the bat when you want to swing it, not when the pitcher forces you to swing it. Because a lot of times when hitters are late, the ball gets on them and they're like, oh no, the ball's here, I have no choice except to start cutting my mechanics. They have to run away, clear to try to get the barrel there, and everything starts to break down. But when they're on time, good rhythm, they see it out front, it allows the swing to work. And when you allow the swing to work, then it can work properly. But when you're late, ball rushes on you, and now you have to start to put shortcuts into your swing, that's when things start to break down, and then you're late.
Yeah, no doubt. And, what I don't want a parent to hear is, that a kid's got to be so early that, because you mentioned not being late, so they're probably thinking the opposite. But that can be detrimental as well. To
Sure.
be so early, you lose your kinetic energy. You're sitting there, you become a statue. I mean, it should look pretty fluid, but it's a fine line between being on time and then getting started late and getting beat. And
Sure.
having to,
And another thing, hitters think that they're going to be able to get the bat there at this perfect time. That's the reason we preach body control. We teach direction, because it creates a length through the zone, so it gives them room for error. If I take the bat, and my bat control, my barrel is here and then it's out, I've got to be pretty precise in the strike zone. Right. But if I can drive to the ball, through the baseball, and then around, I've got a chance to create some length. And maybe, if it's the off-speed pitch, I'm there, I can stay with my swing compared to here and start to come out of it really quick.
I was working, a station with a big league hitter, current big league hitter. I won't mention his name, but good one, really good one. And the term he kept using was margin. Mm-hmm. Like, I got to make sure that I increase my margin. And all he was talking about is what you just said, keeping his bat head in the hitting zone as long as possible.
Sure. And like we said, there's no magic formula. We're not saying this is the right way and the only way that you can do it. We're just trying to give you a chance to be on time through the baseball to make solid contact. That's all we're trying to do here. Like I said, all hitters are different. Yeah. Everybody has their own unique skills. I have some hitters who are really good low ball hitters. Right. Don't swing at the ball above your hands. Try to get the ball down. They're really good at getting in the zone low and then driving through it. There's some other guys who hammer baseballs up in the zone. They understand their strengths. They understand what they're capable of doing, and that's some of the things they work on. So it's not, I don't think every hitter can cover every single part at all times. I'm not sure that works that way. We're just trying to get a hitter in a good position to make solid contact, to have some success to hit the ball square.
you have broken down really the mechanics into 6 phases, 6 key parts. And let's kind of go through those, and I'll just kind of throw some things at you, some questions that I might have in regards to each phase.
Right.
So.
You know, when we get in the batter's box, we want to, you know, get into a nice, comfortable stance. And just remember, you know, our feet, you know, we want to feel strong and feel comfortable in the batter's box. I think that's the most important. It's feel athletic. You know, you can see Tabor moving here, and he's got, you know, some loose movements and some rhythm. You know, he looks hitterish. He's in a, you know, strong position. So I think that's the most important thing, is a hitter feels comfortable from the start.
Okay. You know, we see all different types of stances, especially in the big leagues. I mean, it's okay, obviously, but what would cause us maybe to try to simplify if a hitter's having trouble repeating, maybe? Or?
Sure. And, you know, if, you know, you have hitters who have open stance and closed stance, you know, if the part that, you know, I see is that's the starting position. And, you know, if they're having trouble getting into a good stride, or having a trouble, you know, getting the barrel to the zone, you know, maybe we, you know, look at the stance and see how it's all starting, and maybe that's, you know, that position and maybe causing some problems from the barrel not getting to the, you know, proper hitting position.
All right. Is there anything with the hands and barrel, maybe grip, you know, relaxed, or maybe bat in the fingers? Things that I see with a lot of young hitters,
yeah,
that they tend to mess up.
You know, sometimes, I mean, Tabor, getting your stance, a lot of what I see is a lot of hitters with this top hand, they really choke the barrel or choke the handle, and they get it really deep into their hand. And I rather have it more in the fingertips, in the fingers, so that we have a loose grip, because, you know, it's not so much, I don't think, hand speed, is if we can get barrel speed through the zone. And if we're gripping really tight, it's hard to really manipulate and really whip the barrel through.
Okay, I agree. We always hear, like, youth coaches talk about door knocking knuckles. I don't think it's necessary. You tell me different, that they're perfect. But I guess maybe they got to be close, again, to be able to get the bat more out in the
Sure.
finger.
You know, if loose grip, you'll see it. Loose grip, you know, like you said, the knuckles lining up a little bit. You know, we just don't want to see the wrist lining up.
Right. Okay, awesome. So once we create a good athletic stance with some good posture and knee bend and rhythm, what's the next phase for you?
You know, once into the stance, I think is one of the most important positions besides contact, is the stride. You know, and hitters talk about, or, you know, hitting coaches talk about separation, you know, getting into a good power position. And I think it's really important. That move, to me, is a positive move, you know, almost gaining some ground to the pitcher. We should have good direction, and I think more going toward the pitcher, not away, and not, you know, traveling too far in toward the plate, but good direction, and the hands getting back into a good slot so they feel strong. You know, some hitters get too far back and create length, and then they have a hard time being on time in the hitting zone. So I think it's something that they need to repeat. They need to feel strong, you know, in that position, and be able to have some body control.
Okay, so with this separation that occurs between this positive movement, negative movement, very fancy terms for this separation, this stretching of the core, stretching of the rubber band to put us in a strong position to
Sure.
attack.
Sure.
Okay, I think a lot of people call it the load. I know we talk about it as a load.
Sure.
But you know, what are some keys to that? I mean, you see guys with high leg kicks and toe taps and all. We don't have any problem with any of that stuff, but if it causes a hitter to not be able to repeat, then maybe they got to simplify.
They have to simplify. You know, hitters that use a big leg kick or knee lift, they should use that for timing, not strength. And that's the issue I have sometimes with the leg kick, is they want to use it for power. They want to, you know, drive further into the ground or leap to the front side and use that for strength. A leg kick is not used for strength. A leg kick is used for timing, to get in a good, strong position. And so in that, it enables some rhythm and some timing. So don't use a leg kick thinking you're going to add more power. It's really utilized for timing and not strength. And so the next thing, you know, I think hitters that, really focus on being able to repeat, and you need to feel strong in that position. You know, it's not just moving to be moving, or it's not stride because the coach told me to stride. It is a stride to create some intent and create some, you know, some distance to the pitcher in good direction. So because that next step is when you're going to fire the barrel, and that's when we start to swing. So if we're in a weak position, it's going to make it more difficult to get the barrel there on time. So just nice and relaxed in your stance, good rhythm, good pace, good position that you feel strong, hands back, ready to fire from there.
All right, so let's add one very advanced topic to this basic phase of hitting. As they're loading, you hear people talk about scap loading or driving the back elbow up to drive back down into the slot. You know, I know that can create more whip. It can also create more barrel problems. What is the risk reward for scap loading?
You know, I think, you know, if a player's going to tell you how strong they feel and if they can get the barrel there, you know, you start to get, you know, in technical terms, and you start to get, you know, so focused on every little body movement, I think you lose the total picture. I think some guys do it naturally. I think the guys get their hands back in a strong position, and that feels comfortable to them. You know, I'm not sure if there's a right way or a wrong way of going about that. You know, when I watch hitters and I look at them, if it looks fluid, it looks natural to them, then I think, you know, they're on the right track.
Okay, awesome. So now we're moving into the attack phase, or you know, I'm not sure that's the terminology you're going to use, but we're getting ready to swing the bat.
Sure.
So what are some keys to the front side? You know, foot plant, inside of the ball with the barrel, hands. You know, what are some things you want to emphasize in this phase?
All right, so Tabor, get in your stance. All right, stride for me. Good, there's a position. I think from this position here is, you know, a lot of hitters have a hard time controlling the front side. You're going to use your legs. The swing starts from the ground up, from your feet. But most hitters will leak with the front side. The first thing they want to do to swing the bat is they want to clear the shoulder, clear the hip, and they create length from the backside. You know, and I think you have to utilize your legs. You know, we talk about direction a lot. I like to talk about that back hip and driving it straight to the pitcher, but trying to keep the shoulder down as long as possible. And by doing that, you create a nice lane for your hands to get to the zone. So get back in your stance, Tabor. So as Tabor he strides and stops, you know, as we look at this, you know, if Tabor can hold the front shoulder just a hair, and as he starts to really drive the legs, he's going to use his legs to hit. He's getting in that position to get behind the ball. As you can see, he's using his legs really well. He's driving the backside. It created a lane for his hands to work through the baseball. And as you know, we look a little bit further, you can see the direction. It allows his hands to stay on the ball. So, you know, some issues and some problems I see is, get back in your stance, Tabor. All right, stride and stop. Some hitters really have weak front side mechanics, and as they start their swing, they want to generate power from the front side. And when you generate from the front side, you create length, you create a bat drag, and it makes it really difficult to get the barrel to the ball and out to the front side. So, yeah, don't have time. So control that front side, drive your legs. You're going to use your legs in this, but there's a right way to use them, and that is driving and really having really good weight transfer into the front side and not trying to spin open first.
Yeah, I like that term, weight transfer into the front side, but at the same time we talk about having a quiet head. So is it fair to say that once we go into foot plant, you know, that basically at that point the head should be quiet?
Sure. You know, I think we overlook it. You know, we don't pay enough attention to the eyes and to the head. Once the front foot hits the ground, that head is going to be still.
Like the heel, the front, once the whole foot's down.
Once the front foot's down,
right,
the head's going to be still. Because from then, we're tracking the baseball, and we've got to tell the barrel where to go and tell our hands where to go. And if our eyes are moving all over the place, that's where we're going to be inconsistent. So there again, that's working on your tempo, controlling your effort, controlling your mindset of trying to work through the baseball and not trying to run away sometimes and create more power by using the big muscles, which creates length.
Absolutely. So if the front foot lands and the hitter still drifts forward, in essence, they're speeding the ball up.
Yes. Because,
I mean, you know, their eyes aren't going to be able to track the ball. All right, attacking the inside of the ball. This phase obviously is swing. We're creating whip. We're not pushing. You know, we're going to hammer the baseball. So what are some of the, you know, what's the way we want to get behind the baseball? Okay, so
Tabor getting his stance. You know, Tabor's going to stride, and he's going to start slow motion. He's going to start to swing. A lot of hitters like to get around the ball. They think that's going to create more power, and their hands start to reach around, and we call it like a sweeping action to get out front. All you're doing is creating length. But you know, the key to me is we just want to keep the hands inside the ball. So when the ball's coming in, if we can allow the ball to get to us, driving the backside, hands inside, we're going to create that hammer. We're going to create the whip to the baseball if we stay inside a little bit more and hit to the ball. I think so many hitters like to try to hit out after it. I want to hit to the baseball and then through the baseball to create that whip, and so that I can really whip the barrel through the zone.
Okay, so what about this, you know, a young hitting coach, a young parent looking at this, you know, they're watching this swing, they're watching you teach, and to them, they maybe have been ingrained that, you know, major league hitters have an uppercut, where we know that's not true. They're just getting on plane, and the ball's going downhill. They don't get underneath the ball and scoop it. They're getting on plane. So talk a little bit about keeping the bat head in the hitting zone and what the plane of the baseball truly is with the pitcher throwing downhill to a catcher.
Sure. As Tabor gets through here, you know, one of the things, as he drives, we want to make sure we get behind the baseball. You know, I think hitters want to make sure that, you know, they get behind it, and the first thing they do is drop the barrel, and now we're working really extreme uphill. We want to work behind and then stay there. One good thing about Tabor right here is you see that he has good control of his lower half, his good direction. He's driving the backside through the baseball. He's able to stay there, and now he's able to work through, and then he's going to finish the swing. So many hitters get into the stance, they start to drive, and the first thing they do, they hit, and now they want to cut the baseball. We want to drive through it.
What are some things that you really like to emphasize to keep a hitter honest with?
You know, if Tabor gets back in his stance and he comes to contact, it's as you see where he's on the baseball, he's behind it. I think hitters, if they stay with their swing, you see it's, you know, we call it palm up, palm down, call it what you want, but we're driving through the baseball, and we're not trying to just hit it and then we roll to get around the baseball. I think we hit. If we hit, stay with your swing, through it, and then around. The saying we have is, don't hit the baseball, hit through the baseball.
Hit through the baseball. I like that. And, you know, I'm watching and thinking of young coaches and young parents watching Tabor swing, and they're probably saying, well, his barrel is below the baseball. His barrel's below his hands. Well, you know, I think I'm asking you to clarify to them, you know, that the barrel stays above until we get to contact. Then, you know, the ball is down in the zone, it's knee to belt high. The barrel is going to be released below the hands at some point. So can you clarify that?
Yeah, I mean,
Right here, barrel above the hands.
Sure. Sure. You know, what we want to avoid is chopping the baseball and then cutting. You know, the barrel, it's tough to stay on that pitch. As the swing comes through, it's more important to work behind it, but you can work there and have a slight arc if you stay with your swing. You see where Tabor's just staying through the baseball.
Right.
He's not running away and spinning, dropping underneath, and now he's cutting. Right. The difference is to stay there, through it,
I feel like he's on
and then around. Exactly.
He's getting on plane. The pitch is coming downhill, so get on plane, Tabor. So get on plane.
And now he works through the baseball, and then a through is so important. And I know that seems simple, and I know that, you know, seems like very elementary, but you'll be amazed that kids hit the ball and then they run away, and they think that's good enough. Because a lot of times they want to use the big muscles. Their effort level's too high. And so now they're running away from everything, trying to hit it harder instead of to hit to it and through it.
All right, so what does a broken down backside look like? You know, when somebody just collapses on their backside, as opposed to what we just talked about.
Well, if you collapse on the backside, there's no weight transfer to the front side.
Right, so show what that looks like.
So you're just sitting back, he strides, and yes, now he's trying to really dip, everything's working, back shoulder really started to drag, and now he's really working on an extreme. And I don't think it's okay to get behind the ball, but you just can't get there so early. It's not the first move is to drop to get early. It's to get to the ball and behind the ball. Then we can get through it. But so many hitters want to drop there early. They want to drop the barrel, create length, and then it's hard to get back to the contact point.
So what are some other things as we get through contact, stay on plane, some things about the head, maybe really using our backside into the front side to generate as much timing and power within your framework as possible?
You know, we touched a little bit, but, you know, controlling the head is so important. I think we overlook that a lot. You know, we have a saying that when the head's down, the swing follows. You know, you can correct a lot of mechanical problems by just putting your nose on the baseball, seeing the baseball in the zone. You know, a lot of hitters want to leak up and run away, and then that creates a lot of problems. So being disciplined with the head. You know, we can keep this simple and, hey, get a good pitch to hit, put your nose on the ball and drive through it. You know, a lot of good things can happen out of that. Right. But, you know, when we're talking, you know, if Tabor gets here, you know, he gets into his stance. You know, he strides, stops, in kind of slow motion coming through. As you can see, you see where his head's calm. I mean, he's working behind the ball and he works through, and then he lifts up. You know, just, you know, that simple phrase of, hey, see the ball. You know, if young kids and hitters will focus on just seeing the baseball, it corrects a lot of problems in trying to get so difficult and you got to do all these things perfect. You know, I think that's a valuable lesson and a valuable term, you know, for you know, youth coaches, high school coaches, travel ball coaches, to really implement that is, you know, obviously pitch selection, but hey, be good with your eyes. See the baseball. Let it get to you and drive through it. Can really correct a lot of problems.
Yeah, I just think posture is, you know, we'll talk about that later in a later episode when we get together and talk like we do, but, you know, to me, when the head lifts up, posture breaks down.
Sure.
So, like, you know, instead of having some good spine angle, which we'll get into the depths, like I say later, you know, a person that wants to look is, like you say, running away from their swing. But you can see in my whole posture breakdown, whereas if I just keep the head down and finish and then come up, the ball's long gone by the time I come.
You have good balance. You have a good base that's driving through the ball.
Right. So talk a little bit about this backside. You've already talked about creating direction, but I mean, you know, I've heard you talk about the, you know, back door into the front door, just really utilizing, you know, the drive into the front side, backside accelerator, front side brakes, whatever you want.
Yeah, it's, you know, when you're talking about hitting, I mean, you're going to use your legs, and there's going to be some rotation involved. But what we don't want to see is the front side, the front shoulder, rotate so hard with our hip. I just think you start to run away from the ball. You know, there's got to be, I'm driving my lower half, and like I said, I pick on the back hip. I drive the back hip through the pitcher, and that helps me stay on a base. It helps me stay to the ball. And when I'm here and I'm staying with the baseball, I can make some adjustments inside and outside. You know, if my first move is to spin off the ball, then I create some, you know, some problems. I create some problems on the outer half. You know, but I want to use my legs. I'm not just swinging dead leg either. So I'm going to drive straight through. So now if I catch the ball out front, you know, there's where, you know, I'm going to pull a lot of balls. But it gives me a base. It gives me something to make some, you know, some decisions here inside and outside. Drive the backside. And what happens is now I'm driving a lot of energy into my front side. Got a good weight transfer, not over it, but behind it, so I can drive there and let the ball get to me and drive through it. So, you know, you talked about back door and front door. You know, if I keep this front shoulder down and drive through it, I'm using my legs, but I'm keeping that shoulder down so that the backside can drive to open up the front side. What I don't want to see is the front side go first, and now I escape. Stay there. Drive into it, hit it, so that I can drive through.
Very nice. So how do we finish our swing? You know, I hear people say one-handed, two-handed, up, down. You know, to me it's more about balance and just maintaining your natural fluid path of the swing, right? I mean, the lower the ball is, we're going to finish a little bit higher, probably.
Sure.
But so what are some keys to the finish?
You know, the finish is we want to make sure we get through the baseball and not cut and roll so early. I know it seems simple, but you see hitters, they hit it, and then the next thing you know, they don't understand how to stay with your swing. Right. You know, we talked about some simple things, you know, get in a good, strong position to hit. Be good with the head. Be good with your eyes. And the next thing is just stay with your swing and drive through it. Finish through. Don't hit the ball, hit through the baseball. And when you have good direction with the lower half, it allows you to stay there so you can catch the ball out front and to drive. And like you said, when the ball is lower, you are going to finish a little bit higher because that's just the arc of the swing. You know, it's impossible to hit a ball low and to stay level. It's not natural. Now when the ball's up a little bit, yes, I'm going to be straight to it, and I'm probably going to finish a little bit more level and on plane. But allow that natural finish to work and stay there with it. And I know I keep saying that, but it's so important because whenever the heartbeat goes up, anxiety races, and, you know, effort level goes up, the swing gets in and out really quick.
Well, one thing I see, Tim, when I watch good hitters, especially in BP, because they're not being fooled by anything or deceived by the pitcher, they have tremendous control and balance. I mean, they finish with complete control. They're not dancing with their feet, falling over the plate, falling backwards, falling towards the catcher, diving at the pitcher. It's just like a thing of beauty. They had a violent swing with unbelievable bat speed, and yet they stay under perfect control.
It's staying within their framework, staying within their base, and that's what we're shooting for. Don't allow the pitcher to get you off balance or to get you out of your swing, and that's so important. That's the battle. We're trying to, we talked about body control a number of times here. We probably, said it over and over and over, where it's so important is to be in that good position to create the balance so you stay within your framework. Because when you start to get out front and you start to reach for balls, that's when weak contact happens.
Or losing your legs.
You're losing your legs or losing posture, losing, not seeing the ball correctly.
Right.
But when you allow the ball to get in your hitting position, hitting zone, then it gives you a chance, to put a pretty good swing on the ball.
All right, awesome. Well, one thing I want to, share with our audience is this is just a start. This is our, we talk hitting all the time. We got them involved. Hopefully you pick some things up, our audience did, that can help.
Sure.
Help a young hitter, help a high school hitter, college hitter. This is not the do-all to end-all. It's some
tidbits.
Tidbits. It's what we do for a living. I mean, this works. This stuff works. But it's not like the only way.
There's some really good hitting coaches out there that really go in depth and talk about the mechanical, how all the body parts work. There's some smart guys out there,
right.
But I tend to go more on the simple side, right. some very basic fundamentals and some principles that we can grow from. If we master some of these movements, you can move further and kind of grow a little bit more in depth. But I really believe these things that we talk about, is something that we want to get better at. And you get better at this, then you can grow as a hitter.
Well, we gave them a plan. We gave young hitters, beginning hitters, advanced hitters a plan when they come to the park. And I think that's a key. I think a dad wants to have a plan, a young coach wants to have a plan, a hitter wants to have a plan. If you just show up and you get in a cage and somebody just starts throwing balls at you and you have no purpose to what you're doing, I think you might get a little bit better, but you're not going to make the gains that you could make if you have a plan.
Yes, paying attention to detail.
Paying attention to detail. So, in the next few months, Tim and I will get back together. We'll talk some more, film some more, and we'll present that to our audience and just try to help them grow with us. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Tim. Thanks very much. Thank you, Tabor.
Thank you, big guy.
So Tim, let's dive a little bit deeper into this topic of pitch selection. Why is it so critical?
It goes back, first of all, it's what we talked about a little bit earlier, is you're only as good as the pitches you swing at. We got to swing at strikes. When we start to expand the zone, I think that's when our swings break down. We start to manipulate the barrel, and that's when weak contact is started. So when we get the ball over the plate, that's where our swings are built, and that's where we can really drive the baseball. And I think when you see production from a hitter, you'll see him swing at balls over the strike zone. We got to force the pitcher to throw the ball there. If we only let him throw balls around the strike zone and never make him throw strikes, then we're just making it a lot easier on him. And then also, it's a team sport. We've got to make him throw strikes and use some energy and use some bullets. The worst thing that I see as a hitting coach from my teams is when the first hitter jumps up there and he swings at a ball that's slightly out of the strike zone and makes weak contact. One pitch, one out. And then the next hitter comes up and he maybe swings at a ball above his hands, out of the strike zone again. 2 pitches, 2 outs. We got to do a better job of that and have, more discipline to make sure that he uses some bullets, make sure he uses pitches, because, when pitchers are out there, they have to exert effort and energy. And when they get tired, they make more mistakes. And then also, the more pitches that we see, it helps our teammates out. Once we make him throw a few pitches, we can see what he's got, how the ball looks in the strike zone. And it's so important to be a team player also. So pitch selection, I think it's the core of everything. It starts there. When you give me a team that's swinging at good pitches, you're going to give me a team that I think has a good chance to succeed.
Yeah, and I think it's really logical, but for some reason it just flies over everybody's head, because even in batting practice, when I'm throwing to my guys, if they're swinging at good pitches, they're barreling balls up. And for whatever reason, if they're not focused or what have you, and they chase some balls out of the zone, the production goes down. I mean, so it's very simple. But I want to make sure that the people out there hear you. I mean, you're not saying that you got to sit in there and take a fastball right down the middle first pitch. I mean, we're going to crush that pitch. But, we want to get that good pitch. And a lot of times at the higher levels as you move up, maybe even the younger levels, because the pitchers don't command the ball quite as well. They can't command their mechanics, and repeat. So, but I love the part about making the pitcher work, because at the high school level, we saw 2 guys 94 plus last year. 2 94 plus, one topping out at 97. We make easy outs. That guy's going to be in there the whole game. It's a 7-inning game. We're going to have to get some quality at bats, make that guy work. Maybe we can see someone else, bring someone from the pen, somebody else.
Right.
But so great stuff. So, pitch selection is critical. So, as we just discussed, getting a good pitch to hit. You had talked earlier about approach and plan. Words that are becoming more popular, but I'm not sure that everybody really understands what they are, and there's really a difference, even though they're kind of tied together. So explain this approach and plan and why it's so important to hitting.
I think they're separate, but they can be blended together. Approach, when I'm thinking of approach is, we have pull side, we have middle, and we have opposite field approach. That's where I want to hit the ball. That's kind of where my energy is going. That's where my thoughts are at. I think when a lot of hitters are struggling, they get caught to the sides too much, and I think getting back to the middle of the field is so important. So when we say middle approach, we're just trying to drive the ball right back up, through the box.
Right.
When you're talking plan, in my opinion, is what the pitcher, he's giving you information for that day. For example, if a pitcher's having a hard time throwing strikes, probably my plan is to be more patient. Make him throw some strikes. I'm probably going to keyhole him, make him throw a little bit, looking in one area to really be aggressive and not such a broad area. Make him throw strikes because he's struggling. And if and a different plan is, what if the pitcher's just filling the strike zone up, strike after strike? I'm probably going to be more aggressive. So that's my plan. And my approach is, my plan is to get a good pitch to hit, and my approach is I'm going to drive it right back up the middle.
Right. Awesome. So, as a hitter, the key I'm getting from this, the takeaway is you got to have a plan, and you got to have an approach. You just don't step in the box and just swing and hope to hit. I think at the lower levels, kids can get caught doing that. But, as they get a little bit older, I think it's very important that they at least know that they're trying to work a certain part of the field. And I like the middle approach personally a lot. And then, of course, taking the information from the pitcher, what he's doing. As you mentioned, one thing I tell my guys, the guy's throwing a breaking pitch in the bullpen, can't throw anything, including his breaking pitch, for a strike. I mean, we're sitting dead red all night laying off that curveball. Unless we have 2 strikes.
Sure.
Then we'll make a 2-strike adjustment. But, gather information, apply it to the box.
And some hitters try to make their plan too in-depth or too complicated. I feel keep your plan simple thoughts, so you have attainable goals. Right. I'm not worried about every single thing. Have one thought, hey, I'm going to hit this ball up the middle, get a pitch out over the plate, and I'm going to drive it. Maybe a simple mechanical thought, hey, I'm going to keep my head on the baseball. Drive through it, hit it right back up to, through the middle of the field. I think those things, if you keep the plan and your approach simple, then I think that's when it's attainable.
Okay, so can your plan change from pitch to pitch and at bat to bat?
Yes.
Okay, and when is the thinking, these simple thoughts, when do they take place? In between pitches? Certainly not during the pitch.
No, not during the pitch. Because, when you step out, I think the game, the pitcher dictates that plan. And it's going to adjust because of what the game reflects and how things move on. You might have some base runners. He throws a wild pitch and now your base runners have moved different bases. So that changes my plan. Or, he gets ahead of you. He throws a first pitch strike on the outer half. It might change just a little bit of what I'm trying to do. So, but most of all, keep it simple. and trying to have attainable goals.
So if I hear you correctly, at the lower levels, I mean, it is a real simple plan, and the approach really should be middle probably most of the time. But as we get older as hitters and we have more experience, hopefully, we can get it's not more complicated of a plan, but maybe we understand the plan a little bit more and, trying to move runners over and be productive with our at-bats.
Exactly. I think when you get older, you have more experience, you understand your swing more, you understand what you can do with the baseball, and you've probably seen the pitchers before. And so that gives you more evidence, it gives you more data and information to make a, maybe a little bit more in-depth plan. But like you said, the plan can change from pitch to pitch,
right,
but it should be simple.
Right, absolutely. Great stuff. I mean, Tim and I have been friends for a long time now. Of course, he's been a part of the Winning Baseball project from its inception, really. And, I'm constantly learning. We're all learning. But, there's so much more. I mean, some of the things we touch on tonight are the tip of the iceberg. Some things we dove a little bit deeper into, but it still goes to a whole nother level. And you never know it all, but, I mean, it's fun. It's fun, as a parent, as a player. I'm hoping, we were engaging enough where you could sit down and sit your son down with us. And this is the process. When you talk the game like this, you learn it, And again, if you ever said something to me, Tim, and it didn't make sense, I'd ask you why. You know what I mean? I'm not just going to accept it at face value. My philosophy has taken a long time, and it's changed. But
I'm the same way. It's, I've been in this game a long time and I'm still learning. I don't know it all, but I love talking the game. I love sharing. I love seeing kids have success and grow in this game, because that's where it's all about. And like you said, I hope kids can watch this, or dads can watch this a couple of times to really understand what we're talking about. And I know it's kind of, like we said, we're just talking about a few basic points. Kind of got away from the mechanics, so much, and digging deep into it, but touched on some things that I think hitting coaches and dads overlook a lot. And it helps hitters, if they'll focus on those things, be successful and be confident and jump into the batter's box and ready to compete. Because if you have a kid that's mentally prepared and mentally in the right place, you give him a chance to succeed. And, I've just seen so many times where hitters are bogged down with so many thoughts, and they lose that joy of playing, and they lose the excitement. And if we can keep that excitement and keep that, enthusiasm, that's where they grow. That's where they learn, and that's where they can have success.
Yeah, they get paralysis by analysis, too much stuff. But, in the future talks that we have, I'd really like to dive into, more about how to improve pitch recognition, sitting pitches versus reactionary hitting, just some of the cutting edge type stuff, more like risk versus reward. To me, there's every movement as a hitter, is a risk-reward movement. I mean, we can exaggerate certain movements to increase power, but it might increase your swing and miss a little bit more. So based on your approach, what kind of things can you do, and are you willing to do to try to maybe increase more power or bat speed, but yet maybe you swing and miss and strike out a little bit more. I mean, just some of that higher level cutting edge stuff the next time we get together. And it all comes back to the same stuff, though. I mean, keep it fun, keep it simple, good balance, head down, bat in the zone, create success. Just create. I mean, I have high school guys come through here, and all I'm looking to do every day is to find a way where they can have some success, feel good about themselves, and look forward to coming to the park the next day. If I frustrate them, I mean, I could frustrate them if I wanted to. I could jump on them, I could yell at them, I could make the drills impossible, and they would leave frustrated and probably leave the game. So, I mean, winning is team, it's little things, it's confidence, it's, it's having a plan, really,
Sure.
is ultimately what it comes down to. So, as a coach, as a dad, as a player, we got to have a plan, and you got to stick to your plan. got to stick. You got to be perseverance. You know, yeah, I'm going to do this, you know, and 1 week later, you're not doing it anymore. That doesn't work. It doesn't get you anywhere. So, you know, do you have anything else for the audience? All right, guys, from Winning Baseball, we'll see you in a couple weeks. Take care.